My name is Daniela. I'm 27 and I've finally made it. After years of working my way up, I'm now a senior marketing executive at one of Chicago's top firms. Growing up with divorced parents wasn't easy, especially when Dad quickly moved on with his new wife and daughter. For years, I watched him prioritize his new family while I faded into the background. Just when I thought I'd put that pain behind me, my phone rang. Dad suddenly needed something from me. If you're watching this, let me know where you're tuning in from. Hit subscribe and join me as I navigate this family drama that reopened old wounds. I remember a time when we were actually happy. Before the divorce, before everything fell apart, we were what you'd call a picture-perfect family. Dad would swing me around in the backyard while Mom prepared Sunday dinner. Those memories feel like they belong to someone else now. Everything changed when I was 12. The fighting started small. Whispered arguments they thought I couldn't hear, tense silences during dinner, Dad coming home later and later. Then one night he didn't come home at all. 2 weeks later he sat me down and explained he wouldn't be living with us anymore. "Your mother and I still love you very much, Daniela," he said, his voice strained. "But sometimes adults need to live apart to be happy." What he didn't say was that he'd already found someone who made him happier than we did. Her name was Amanda, and Dad met her just 3 months after moving out. I found out when I spotted them holding hands at a restaurant when Dad was supposed to be having lunch with just me. The divorce was ugly. Mom cried herself to sleep most nights thinking I couldn't hear her through our thin apartment walls. Dad moved into a fancy new house across town. Less than a year after the separation, he married Amanda in a lavish ceremony I attended in an uncomfortable dress, feeling like a prop in someone else's perfect day. Then came Brianna, my stepsister. I was 13 when she was born. I still remember Dad calling to cancel our weekend together because Amanda needs me right now. That became a pattern I'd grow painfully familiar with over the years. While Dad built his new family, Mom and I struggled. The child support checks came, but they barely covered our needs. Mom took on extra shifts at the hospital where she worked as a nurse, often coming home exhausted with dark circles under her eyes. "We'll be okay, honey," she'd assure me, but I could see the worry lines deepening on her forehead when she thought I wasn't looking. I stepped up at home learning to cook basic meals, doing laundry, and keeping up with my schoolwork. I threw myself into academics, determined to earn scholarships for college, since I knew Mom couldn't afford tuition. Dad's presence in my life became increasingly sporadic. He'd cancel our every other weekend visits for Brianna's dance classes or Amanda's family gatherings. My birthdays often came with belated cards and promises to celebrate next time. When I turned 16, he forgot completely. I waited all day for his call, checking my phone obsessively until Mom found me crying in my room. "Honey," she said gently, "you can't keep expecting him to be someone he's not." But I did. I kept hoping even as the evidence mounted that I'd become an afterthought in his life. When he did show up, he'd bring expensive gifts, as if designer clothes could make up for his absence. He'd ask superficial questions about school but check his phone when I answered. Often he'd steer conversations toward Brianna's accomplishments, her ballet recitals, her straight A's, her popularity. "You should come watch her perform sometime," he'd say, apparently oblivious to the fact that he'd missed my debate team finals the previous week. The summer before college was particularly revealing. I'd been accepted to Northwestern with a partial scholarship, but we still needed money for housing and expenses. I worked 2 jobs, mornings at a coffee shop and evenings waiting tables. When I asked Dad if he could help with college costs, he sighed. "I've got Brianna's private school tuition and we just put in a pool," he explained. "I can maybe give you a bit for books, but that's tight right now." The bit for books turned out to be $200, barely enough for one textbook. Meanwhile, his social media showed pictures of their family vacation to Hawaii. Throughout college, I worked while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. I secured internships through my own networking and determination. When graduation came, I sent Dad an invitation, not expecting much. Surprisingly, he showed up, an hour late, but he came. He sat through half the ceremony before leaning over to whisper that he needed to leave early for Brianna's dance recital. I pretended it didn't hurt, as I watched him slip out while other parents stayed to take proud photos with their graduates. After college, I threw myself into building my career. Starting as an entry-level marketing assistant, I worked longer hours than anyone else, pitched innovative campaigns, and gradually climbed the corporate ladder. Each promotion felt like vindication, proof that I was worthy of attention and success, even if my own father couldn't see it. By 27, I'd achieved what many in my field would consider remarkable success. I became the youngest senior marketing director in my company's history, leading a team of 12 and handling accounts worth millions. My latest campaign had increased our biggest client's revenue by 30%, earning me recognition across the industry. Through it all, Dad remained on the periphery of my life. Occasional texts on holidays, brief calls on my birthday when he remembered, and superficial conversations when we did speak. I'd built a life that didn't depend on his approval or attention. I thought I'd made peace with our distant relationship. Then my phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon, and everything I thought I'd processed came rushing back. I was in the middle of a presentation when my phone vibrated in my pocket. Normally I'd ignore it, but something made me glance down. Dad's name on the screen startled me. He rarely called, especially during work hours. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. "Dad, is everything okay?" I asked immediately, assuming something must be wrong for him to call out of the blue. "Daniela?" "Everything's fine, just fine," he said with forced cheerfulness. "How's my successful daughter doing? I heard about that big campaign you landed. Impressive stuff." I frowned. How did he know about that? We hadn't spoken in months. "Thanks," I said cautiously. "How did you hear about it?" "Oh, you know how news travels. Amanda has a friend whose husband works in advertising. Small world, right?" The small talk continued awkwardly for a few minutes, him asking vague questions about my work, me giving equally vague answers. Something felt off. Dad never called just to chat. "So, Brianna's graduating high school next month," he finally said, his voice shifting to what I recognized as his proud father tone. "Top of her class, you know. She's got acceptance letters from several good schools." "That's great," I replied automatically. I'd met Brianna only a handful of times over the years, each interaction brief and uncomfortable. She seemed nice enough, but we were essentially strangers connected by my father's DNA, and his choice to be her daily dad while being my occasional one. "She's thinking about marketing actually," he continued. "Says she wants to be like her big sister." The comment caught me off guard. I didn't even know Brianna thought of me as her sister, let alone a role model. "That's surprising," I managed. "Well, that's actually why I'm calling," Dad said, his voice taking on that familiar tone he used when asking for favors. "Your company has that summer internship program, right? The prestigious one." And there it was, the real reason for the call. "Yes, we do," I said carefully, already seeing where this was heading. "Brianna would be perfect for it. She's smart, creative, a real people person. Having an internship at a top firm like yours would really give her a leg up for college." I remained silent, processing the audacity of what he was asking. After years of minimal contact, he was calling to use my professional connections for Brianna. "The selection process is very competitive," I finally said. "We get hundreds of applications for a handful of spots." "But surely you have some pull there, being a director and all," he pressed. "Just get her foot in the door. She'll do the rest." Before I could respond, he continued, "Oh, and we probably won't be reachable for a couple of weeks soon. We're taking a family trip to Italy and France. Brianna's graduation present. You know how Amanda has always wanted to see Europe." My stomach tightened. Another family vacation I wasn't included in, mentioned casually as if it wouldn't hurt. Meanwhile, he wanted me to put my professional reputation on the line for the daughter he hadn't neglected. "I'll have to think about it," I said, my voice clipped. "The internship program has strict protocols." "Come on, Daniela. It's for family." He said the word family, hitting me like a slap. "Just talk to whoever's in charge. For your sister." "Step-sister," I corrected automatically. "And like I said, I'll think about it. I need to get back to my meeting now." Fine, he said, sounding disappointed. "But let me know soon. Applications close next week, right?" How did he know that our company's internship details weren't widely publicized? He'd clearly been planning this ask. "Goodbye, Dad," I said, ending the call before he could say more. I stood in the hallway, phone clutched in my hand, trying to compose myself before returning to my meeting. The familiar feelings of inadequacy and resentment bubbled up. After all these years, nothing had changed. I was still only worthy of his attention when he needed something from me. That evening, I met my best friend Jessica for drinks and unloaded the whole story. "The nerve of that man," Jessica said, shaking her head. "He barely acknowledges your existence for years, then calls asking for professional favors, and casually mentions their family vacation in the same breath." "Classic dad," I said, attempting a laugh that came out more like a choked sob. "You're not actually considering helping him, are you?" Jessica asked, studying my face. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to tell him to go to hell, but another part is still that 12-year-old girl desperate for her daddy's approval," Jessica finished gently. I nodded, hating how transparent my emotions were. "And then there's Brianna," I added. "It's not her fault dad's a selfish jerk. Should she be punished for his behavior?" "Has she ever reached out to you directly?" Jessica asked. "No, but I don't know if that's because she doesn't want to or because dad discourages it." Jessica sipped her wine thoughtfully. "Maybe you should talk to her. See what she's actually like without your father as the middleman." The suggestion made sense, but it also terrified me. What if Brianna was just like him? Or worse, what if she was wonderful, and I had to face all I'd missed by not having a relationship with my half-sister? "I'll think about it," I said, the same answer I'd given my father. That night, I barely slept, tossing and turning as memories and emotions I thought I'd dealt with years ago resurfaced. By morning, I'd made a decision. I would meet Brianna for coffee, not committing to anything, just seeing who this young woman was and what she actually wanted. I texted my father, "I'll meet with Brianna to discuss potential opportunities. No promises." His reply came immediately. "Great. She'll call you to set it up. You won't regret this, Daniela." But as I got ready for work, I already wondered if I would. The cafe where I agreed to meet Brianna was neutral territory, not near my apartment or office, somewhere I wouldn't run into colleagues or friends. I arrived 20 minutes early, claiming a corner table and ordering a latte. I didn't touch my stomach, too knotted with anxiety. What would she be like? In my mind, Brianna had always been an abstract concept more than a person, the replacement daughter, the one who got birthday parties and dance lessons while I got forgotten weekends and belated cards. I'd seen photos over the years, of course, a smiling blonde girl on my father's social media, always surrounded by family, always celebrated. At exactly noon, the door opened and I recognized her immediately. Brianna had Amanda's blonde hair and delicate features, but my father's confident stride and height. She spotted me and waved, approaching with a nervous smile. "Daniela, hi. Thanks so much for meeting me." Her voice was bright and eager, with none of the entitled attitude I'd unconsciously expected. "Nice to see you, Brianna," I replied, the formality in my tone unintentional but impossible to hide. She slid into the seat across from me, fidgeting with her purse strap. "This is kind of weird, right? I mean, we're sisters, but barely know each other." "Step-sisters," I corrected automatically, then regretted my coldness when I saw her face fall. "But yes, it's a little strange." An awkward silence followed as she ordered a caramel frappuccino with extra whipped cream. I studied her discreetly. Designer clothes, perfect manicure, expensive bag. The privileged upbringing I never had was written all over her. "So," I finally said, "Dad mentioned you're interested in marketing." Her face lit up. "Yes, I've been following your career, actually. I found some of your campaigns online. The Brightline rebranding was brilliant. The way you repositioned them from a stuffy financial service to something millennials actually want to use. I wrote a paper about it for my business class." I blinked, genuinely surprised. "You wrote a paper about my campaign?" "Well, I didn't know if I should mention that it was my sister's work," she admitted. "But yeah, I've been following what you do for a while now. Dad doesn't really talk about you much, but I was curious." The casual confirmation that my father rarely mentioned me stung, even though it wasn't surprising. "What exactly did Dad tell you about me?" I asked, unable to help myself. Brianna shifted uncomfortably. "Not much, honestly. That you're very independent. That you and him had a complicated relationship after the divorce. He said you preferred to do things your own way." I nearly laughed. What a convenient narrative, painting me as the difficult one who chose distance rather than the child who was pushed aside. Is that why you never reached out to me before? I asked. Brianna looked genuinely confused. I kind of got the impression you weren't interested in being part of our family. Dad always said we should respect your space. Of course he did. Keep the daughters separate, control the narrative. What else has Dad told you about our childhood? I asked. Brianna shrugged. Just that he and your mom didn't work out and that the divorce was hard on everyone. He said he tried to stay involved, but you were closer to your mom. I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to unload 18 years of neglect and disappointment. This wasn't Brianna's fault. That's one version of the story, I said carefully. But tell me about you. You're graduating soon. She nodded eagerly, and I listened as she talked about her high school experience, her friends, her activities. It was like looking through a window into an alternate universe, the childhood I might have had if my father hadn't walked away. And then for my 16th birthday, Dad took us all to Disney World. It was magical, she gushed, then caught herself. Sorry, I don't know if you want to hear about family trips. It's fine, I lied. Sounds nice. We're going to Europe this summer too. Dad's surprise graduation gift, 2 weeks in Italy and France. She pulled out her phone showing me an itinerary featuring luxury hotels and private tours. I saw that ring when we had Christmas at Grandma's house. She continued, pointing to my mother's heirloom ring that I wore on my right hand. Dad said it belonged to your mom's family. You spend Christmas with Dad's mother? I asked, another revelation hitting me. My grandmother had always claimed she was too frail for visitors when I'd suggested visiting during holidays. Every year, Grandma Janet makes her famous apple pie, and we all do presents Christmas morning. Every casual comment revealed another exclusion, another lie. The family gatherings I wasn't invited to. The relationships I was kept from maintaining the alternate reality where my father was dependable and generous. Just not with me. Throughout our conversation, Brianna mentioned dozens of family traditions and experiences I knew nothing about. Weekend barbecues, annual beach trips, monthly movie nights. A whole family life that had continued without me, while I was told there wasn't time or money to include me. Anyway, Brianna said, finally circling back to the reason for our meeting, I know Dad probably put you on the spot about the internship. I told him not to, but he insisted. You told him not to ask me. That didn't fit the narrative I'd constructed. She nodded, looking embarrassed. I wanted to apply normally. I don't expect special treatment. But Dad said it would be crazy not to use our connection. He can be pushy, you know. That at least I could agree with. What do you actually want, Brianna? I asked directly. She seemed startled by the question. I want to learn. I'm really interested in marketing and your company is amazing. But more than that. She hesitated, then continued in a rush. I've always wanted to know you better. You're my big sister, but you're like this mystery person. I used to make up stories about what your life was like. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. All these years I'd imagined her as the favored replacement, never considering she might have felt my absence too. If you want advice on applying to the program properly, I can help with that, I said finally. But I won't pull strings or bypass the process. That wouldn't be fair to other applicants, and honestly, it wouldn't be good for you either. Relief washed over her face. That's all I want, really. Just guidance. As our meeting wrapped up, I found myself unexpectedly offering to meet again. Despite everything, I was curious about this young woman who was both a stranger and my closest blood relative besides my mother. Walking home afterward, my emotions were a tangled mess. The anger toward my father had only intensified, learning how thoroughly he'd excised me from family life while simultaneously creating a narrative that it was my choice. But Brianna herself wasn't what I'd expected. She seemed genuine, talented, and strangely eager for a connection I'd assumed she'd never missed. I was still processing these contradictory feelings when my phone rang. Dad again. His timing, as always, impeccable in all the wrong ways. How did it go with Brianna? My father asked without even saying hello. I was still processing the meeting myself, not ready to discuss it with him. Fine, she seems like a nice person. So you'll help her with the internship. He cut straight to the point. I told her I'd give her advice on applying through the proper channels. I said carefully. A pause. That's not exactly what we were hoping for, Daniela. The we grated on my nerves. Always we, him, Amanda, and Brianna, the real family unit. The internship program has a specific application process for a reason, I explained. It wouldn't be ethical for me to bypass that. It's not bypassing, it's networking, he countered. People help family all the time. That's how the world works. Family. I repeated the word bitter on my tongue. Interesting, you should use that word. What's that supposed to mean? The question ignited something in me. All the hurt and resentment I'd suppressed for years. When was the last time you treated me like family, Dad? When Brianna showed me pictures of your Europe trip, I couldn't help but notice I've never been invited on a single family vacation. You were always busy with school or work, he said dismissively. And as an adult, you've made it clear you prefer your independence. That's your version of events, I said, my voice shaking slightly. But we both know you stopped making real time for me after you married Amanda. That's not fair, Daniela. I paid child support. I had you for weekends. Some weekends, I corrected. When you didn't cancel for Brianna's activities or Amanda's family events. And you think child support payments, the bare legal minimum, make you father of the year. I did my best, he insisted. You were always difficult after the divorce. Always moody, always making your mother and me feel guilty. I was 12. The words burst out louder than I intended. I was a child whose father left and started a new family like we were replaceable. Of course I was moody. See, this is exactly why we've never been able to have a good relationship, he said, his voice taking on that martyred tone I knew well. You hold on to grudges. You can't move forward. Moving forward would require acknowledgement of the past, I said. You've never once admitted how much you hurt me. Ancient history, he scoffed. And if you'd really made something of yourself like you claim you'd want to help family, instead you're being petty and vindictive. The accusation stunned me. Petty and vindictive for not using my professional position to give Brianna special treatment. For using this as an excuse to punish me through her, he shot back. I'm not punishing anyone. I just met Brianna today for the first time in years because you've kept us apart. I never kept you apart, he protested. You never showed interest in being involved. That's a lie and you know it. I said, my voice dangerously quiet now. You excluded me from family events. You told your mother I was too busy to visit during holidays. You created a narrative where I was the difficult one who chose distance when you were the adult who should have fought to maintain our relationship. A tense silence followed. If you don't help Brianna, he finally said, everyone will know exactly what kind of person you really are. Selfish, bitter, incapable of moving past childhood grievances. Is that a threat? I asked incredulously. It's reality. The family already thinks you're standoffish. This will just confirm it. By family, you mean your wife's relatives and your mother who you've poisoned against me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Make the right choice, Daniela, he said coldly. Show you're better than this pettiness. Help your sister or prove me right about you being heartless. The call ended, leaving me shaking with anger and hurt. The manipulation was so transparent yet still effective in making me question myself. Was I being petty? Using Brianna to punish him? I called my mother something I rarely did when upset about Dad. I'd always tried to shield her from my ongoing pain about their divorce, not wanting to reopen her wounds. But I needed perspective from someone who knew the whole history. Oh, honey, she sighed after I recounted both conversations. Your father has always been skilled at rewriting history to suit his narrative. He did the same thing during our marriage, convincing me that his late nights at work were my fault for being too demanding at home. He made it sound like I chose to be distant, I said, tears finally breaking through, like I was the one who didn't want family holidays or trips. Daniela, I remember you crying yourself to sleep when he canceled your weekend visits. I remember you making Father's Day cards he never saw because he took Brianna fishing instead. Don't let him gaslight you into believing his neglect was your choice. Her validation released something in me, permission to trust my own memories, my own pain. What should I do about Brianna? I asked. That's separate from your father, Mom said wisely. Decide what kind of relationship you want with her, if any. But set clear boundaries with your father. His approval has always come with conditions, and that won't change unless he does. After we hung up, I texted Jessica. Dad basically threatened to tell everyone I'm a monster if I don't help Brianna get the internship. Her reply came quickly. Classic manipulation. Don't fall for it. You can be kind to Brianna without letting your dad use her as a pawn. She was right. This situation was more complex than simply saying yes or no to my father's demands. It involved my professional ethics, my relationship with a half-sister I barely knew, and most importantly, my own self-respect. I decided to take a few days before responding to my father. I needed to think clearly without the emotional turmoil his words had stirred up. What I didn't expect was that events at work would soon force my hand. Monday morning brought unexpected complications. During our weekly leadership meeting, our HR director announced changes to the summer internship program. Due to unprecedented interest, we're implementing a blind selection process this year, she explained. All identifying information will be removed from applications before review. The committee will evaluate candidates solely on their qualifications and application materials. My colleague Thomas raised his hand. What about internal referrals? My nephew is applying. The HR director was firm. No exceptions. We've had concerns about favoritism in past years. The CEO wants a totally merit-based process. After the meeting, I cornered my mentor Janet, who'd been with the company for 20 years. Is this about the nepotism complaints from last year? I asked, recalling how a board member's son had received an internship despite lackluster qualifications. Janet nodded. Exactly. After that disaster, the board insisted on transparency. Any attempt to influence selections could result in disciplinary action. This development added another layer to my dilemma. Even if I wanted to help Brianna, doing so could jeopardize my own position. When I returned to my office, there were 3 texts from my father. Have you put in a word for Brianna yet? Applications close Friday. She really needs this opportunity. The pressure tactics were nothing new, but they felt particularly suffocating now. I silenced my phone and tried to focus on work, but my concentration was shot. During lunch, I received an unexpected call from an unfamiliar number. It was Amanda, my father's wife. Daniela? It's Amanda. I hope you don't mind me calling directly. In 18 years, she had never once reached out to me independently. The surprise of it momentarily left me speechless. I wanted to talk about Brianna's internship, she continued, not waiting for my response. Your father mentioned you're being hesitant. Of course he had. I explained to Dad that our internship process is structured and competitive. I can't simply place someone, even family. But surely there are ways around that, she pressed. A recommendation from a director must carry weight. The process is blind this year specifically to prevent favoritism, I explained, trying to keep my tone neutral. Daniela, her voice took on a rehearsed quality. Your father has always supported you. He paid for your education, he attended your graduation. Now Brianna needs your help. That's what family does. The revisionist history was staggering. My scholarships and my mother paid for my education, I corrected. Dad contributed minimally. And he left my graduation early. That's not how he remembers it, she said dismissively. Regardless, this is your chance to be a good sister. Brianna looks up to you. I'm happy to mentor Brianna, I said carefully, but I won't compromise professional ethics. I'm disappointed, Amanda said, her tone chilling. Your father was right about you always making things difficult. Brianna will be heartbroken. After she hung up, I sat at my desk feeling manipulated from all sides. Later that afternoon, I discovered from my company's internal system that Brianna had already submitted her application, a fact neither my father, nor Amanda had mentioned. She had applied through the proper channels even while they were pressuring me to intervene. This revelation sparked my curiosity. I couldn't access her application due to the new blind process, but the fact that she'd submitted independently suggested she might have been honest about wanting to earn her place. That evening, I couldn't sleep. The deadline pressure, the family drama, the ethical considerations, it all swirled in my mind, preventing rest. By Thursday, Dark circles had formed under my eyes, and colleagues were noticing my distraction. My father's tactics escalated throughout the week. Guilt-laden texts, pointed reminders of past failures to be family-oriented. Even my grandmother called, clearly prompted by him to express disappointment in my selfishness. "Your poor father just wants what's best for Brianna," she said, "after everything he's done for you." The alternate reality my father had constructed for our extended family was complete and airtight. In their version, he was the devoted father I ungratefully rejected. By Friday morning, I was emotionally exhausted but resolute. I would not be manipulated into compromising my professional standards or ethics. I texted my father, "Brianna has already applied through the proper channels. I will not attempt to influence the selection committee, as doing so would violate company policy and potentially harm both my reputation and hers. I'm happy to mentor her regardless of whether she receives the internship." His response was swift and cutting. "Your mother really did a number on you, always making you think you're the victim. Brianna deserves better." I was drafting a response when my assistant interrupted. "Daniela, there's someone insisting on seeing you. He doesn't have an appointment but says he's your father." My blood ran cold. "My father is here in the office." She nodded uncomfortably. "He's quite persistent. Security asked if they should escort him out." "No," I said quickly, not wanting a scene. "I'll handle it." In the reception area, my father stood with his arms crossed, radiating indignation. Seeing him in my professional space felt like worlds colliding, the past I'd worked so hard to overcome invading the future I'd built for myself. "Dad," I said quietly, "this isn't appropriate. I'm at work." "You've been ignoring my messages," he said loudly, drawing glances from nearby colleagues. "We need to talk about Brianna." "Lower your voice," I hissed, "and follow me." I led him to a small conference room, acutely aware of curious eyes following us. Once inside, with the door closed, I turned to face him. "What are you thinking showing up at my workplace?" "You left me no choice," he said. "You're being completely unreasonable." "Unreasonable," I repeated. "For following my company's policies, for maintaining professional ethics, for turning your back on family," he countered. "I don't understand what happened to you, Daniela. You used to be such a sweet kid. Now you're this cold, career-obsessed woman who can't even help her sister." Each word landed like a physical blow. The same old tactics, painting me as defective for not bending to his will, for having boundaries, for expecting respect. "Do you ever listen to yourself?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "You've spent years treating me like an afterthought. You excluded me from family events. You forgot my birthdays. You left my graduation early. Now you barge into my workplace making demands and have the audacity to call me cold." "That's ancient history," he dismissed. "Why can't you let it go? Your sister needs your help now." "Half-sister," I corrected. "And she already applied through the proper channels, which you conveniently didn't mention." He waved this away. "Applications are just formalities. Everyone knows it's who you know that matters." "Not here," I said firmly. "Not in my company. Not with my professional reputation." "So that's it. Your precious career matters more than family." His voice rose again. "My integrity matters," I replied. "And if you actually respected me, you'd understand that." "Respect has to be earned," he shot back. Something snapped inside me. 18 years of seeking approval, of making excuses for his behavior, of doubting my own worth, it all crystallized into perfect clarity. "You're right," I said calmly. "Respect does have to be earned, and you, Dad, haven't earned mine in a very long time." His face reddened. "After everything I've done for you." "What exactly have you done?" I interrupted. "Name one significant sacrifice you've made for me since you left Mom. One time you chose me over your new family. One occasion where you put my needs first." His mouth opened and closed, but no examples came. "That's what I thought," I said, a strange calm settling over me. "I'm done trying to earn your approval or attention. I'm done feeling guilty for having boundaries. And I'm definitely done letting you manipulate me." "You'll regret this," he warned, his voice cold. "When you need family someday, and nobody's there for you." I have family, I replied. I have mom. I have friends who love me unconditionally. What I don't need is relationships based on guilt and obligation. He stormed out, leaving me standing alone in the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see colleagues quickly averting their eyes, pretending they hadn't witnessed the drama. Embarrassment washed over me, but beneath it was something unexpected. Relief. For the first time in my adult life, I'd stood my ground with my father without wavering, without second-guessing myself. As I returned to my office, my phone buzzed with a text. To my surprise, it was from Brianna. "I'm so sorry about Dad. Can we talk?" The unexpected text from Brianna left me staring at my phone, unsure how to respond. After the confrontation with my father, I was emotionally drained and wary of further family drama, but curiosity won out. "When would you like to talk?" I replied. Her response came quickly. "Are you free for coffee tomorrow? I promise this isn't about the internship." We arranged to meet at the same cafe as before. That night, I received a barrage of angry texts from my father, each one attempting a different manipulation tactic. Guilt, anger, appeals to family loyalty, even threats to tell everyone the truth about you. I silenced my phone and slept better than I had all week. The next morning, I arrived at the cafe to find Brianna already waiting, looking nervous and fidgeting with a sugar packet. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. "Especially after everything." "How much do you know about what happened?" I asked directly. She grimaced. "Dad came home furious yesterday, ranting about how ungrateful and cold you are. Mom tried to calm him down, but he kept going on about how you've always been difficult and how you were sabotaging my future out of spite." "And what do you think?" I challenged. "I think there's a lot more to this story than I've been told," she said, surprising me with her perception. "And I think Dad handled this whole thing terribly." She took a deep breath before continuing. "After he stormed off to his study, Mom told me he showed up at your workplace. That's completely inappropriate. I was mortified when I heard." "It wasn't my finest professional moment," I admitted. "Having security nearly escort your screaming father out doesn't exactly enhance your leadership image." "I'm really sorry," Brianna said, looking genuinely distressed. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't mentioned being interested in marketing—" "Stop," I interrupted. "This isn't your fault. This is a pattern of behavior that started long before you were born." Something in my tone must have resonated because she leaned forward. "What do you mean?" I hesitated, uncertain how much to share. She was still his daughter, and I didn't want to damage their relationship. But she deserved some context for the family she'd grown up in. "Our father has always been selective with his attention and affection," I began carefully. "After he married your mom, I became increasingly peripheral to his life." "But he always said you preferred staying with your mom," Brianna said, confusion evident in her expression. "That you didn't like visiting." "That's not true," I said gently. "I wanted more time with him, not less. But he canceled our weekends regularly for other priorities. He missed school events, birthdays. He moved on with his new family, and I wasn't really included." Brianna looked stricken. "But that doesn't make sense. Dad's always been so involved with everything in my life. He never misses anything important." "Exactly." I said the word hanging between us. Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Oh my God. He was there for everything for me and not for you." I nodded, relieved not to have to spell it out further. "All those family vacations, holidays at Grandma's weekend barbecues." She trailed off, the implications sinking in. "You weren't invited to any of that, were you?" "No," I confirmed. "I spent holidays with my mom or when I was older working to save for college." "College," she echoed. "Dad's paying for mine entirely. He didn't help you." "He gave me $200 for books one semester," I said, trying to keep the bitterness from my voice. "I worked multiple jobs and got scholarships." Brianna sat back, visibly processing this new reality. "I had no idea. All this time I thought you just weren't interested in being part of the family. That's what they always implied." "It was easier for him that way," I said. "If I was the difficult one who chose distance, he didn't have to acknowledge his role in our estrangement." She was quiet for a long moment. "Is that why you won't help with the internship? Because of how Dad treated you?" "No," I said firmly. I won't help because it would be unprofessional and unethical to give you special treatment. Our company implemented a blind selection process specifically to prevent favoritism. If I tried to intervene, I could damage both our reputations. I told Dad I didn't want special treatment, she said, frustration evident in her voice. I wanted to apply normally. I thought maybe afterward, if I got in on my own merits, you might be willing to mentor me. But he insisted that's not how the real world works. That's his worldview, I acknowledged. Connections and favors. But it's not mine, and from what you're saying, it's not yours either. She shook her head. I want to earn things on my own. I'm tired of Dad constantly pulling strings for me. It makes me doubt whether I deserve anything I achieve. The sentiment resonated deeply. I understand that feeling, I said. It's not just this internship. Brianna continued, seeming relieved to finally voice these thoughts. He's controlling about everything. My college choices, my friends, my summer plans. It's suffocating. He's always needed to be the center of the family universe, I observed. The generous provider, the decision maker. Exactly, she exclaimed. And if you question him or want something different, he makes you feel guilty and ungrateful. It was startling to discover we had this common ground despite our different upbringings. For all his presence in Brianna's life, our father's fundamental character remained the same, controlling, manipulative, requiring adoration and compliance. I don't want to come between you and Dad, I said carefully. Despite everything, he's been present for you in ways he wasn't for me. But at what cost? She asked, surprising me with her insight. Constant control. Walking on eggshells, never being allowed to make my own choices without drama. We talked for over 2 hours, sharing experiences and perspectives. Despite the circumstances that divided us, we found unexpected connection in our shared understanding of our father's difficult personality. As our conversation wound down, I made a decision. I can't help you bypass the internship application process, I said. But I can offer something else. If you're genuinely interested in marketing, I'd be willing to mentor you personally. We could meet regularly to discuss the industry, review your portfolio, help you develop relevant skills. Her face lit up. Really? You'd do that? Yes, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. And I can connect you with entry-level opportunities at other agencies where my recommendation wouldn't present a conflict of interest. That would be amazing, she said, genuine gratitude in her voice. There's one condition, I added. This stays between us. I don't want Dad using our relationship as leverage or taking credit for bringing us together after all these years. Agreed, she said firmly. In fact, I've been thinking a lot since our last conversation. I'm going to talk to him before the Europe trip. About how he's treated you, about his controlling behavior. Someone needs to stand up to him. That's brave, I said, both impressed and concerned. But be prepared for defensiveness. He spent years crafting narratives that protect him from accountability. I know, she sighed. But after hearing your side, I can't just pretend everything's fine anymore. As we parted ways, I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Lingering hurt about the past, cautious hope about this new connection with Brianna, and something like freedom in finally speaking my truth without apology. That evening, I received yet another text from my father. We leave for Europe in 3 days. What should I tell Brianna about the internship? For once, I didn't agonize over my response or worry about his reaction. I simply wrote, Brianna and I have spoken. I've offered to mentor her professionally in ways that don't compromise my ethics. This is between her and me now. I expect you to respect our relationship without interference. His response was predictably self-centered. After everything I've done trying to bring you two together, this is the thanks I get. More attitude. I didn't bother replying. For the first time in my life, I didn't need the last word with my father. I didn't need his approval or understanding. I had spoken my truth, set my boundaries, and that was enough. The weeks following my father's departure for Europe brought unexpected changes and healing. True to her word, Brianna had confronted him about his treatment of me before their trip. According to her texts, it hadn't gone well initially, defensive anger, denial, attempts to rewrite history, but by the 3rd day in Italy, something had shifted. He actually apologized to me, she texted. Not for everything and not directly to you, but he admitted he could have done better as a father after the divorce. It's not much, but it's the first time I've ever heard him acknowledge any fault. I appreciated her updates but maintained emotional distance from my father's supposed growth. Too many years of disappointment had taught me to protect myself from false hope. Meanwhile, I channeled my energy into positive changes. I started seeing a therapist to work through the childhood wounds that still affected my adult relationships. Dr. Keller helped me recognize patterns of seeking validation and approval that stemmed from my father's conditional love. "You've been trying to earn love that should have been freely given," she observed during one session. "That's not your failure, it's his." At work, the confrontation with my father had unexpected professional consequences. After witnessing the scene, my CEO called me into his office the following week. "I understand that was your father causing the commotion in reception," he said. I braced myself for reprimand, but instead he continued, "It takes courage to maintain professional ethics when faced with personal pressure. The board has been impressed with how you've handled the situation." To my surprise, he asked me to develop a formal mentorship program for marketing students and young professionals, one separate from our internship program that would provide guidance without promising employment. "Your integrity in this situation showed exactly the kind of leadership we value," he explained. Meanwhile, Brianna and I began building a relationship independent of our father. We met every other week, sometimes discussing marketing and career development, other times simply getting to know each other as individuals. She was intelligent, creative, and possessed a self-awareness surprising for her age. "I think I've been Dad's do-over child," she confided during one of our coffee meetings. "His chance to be the father he convinces himself he always was." My mother, initially wary of my developing relationship with Brianna, eventually supported the connection. "She's not responsible for her father's choices," Mom acknowledged, "and maybe this relationship is healing for both of you." True healing, however, required boundaries with my father. When he returned from Europe, his initial attempts to contact me remained manipulative, alternating between guilt trips and insincere apologies that always included qualifiers like, "if you felt neglected," or "though you've always been oversensitive." I maintained distance, responding minimally, and refusing to engage with his attempts to draw me into emotional debates about the past. This clear boundary setting was new territory for me, and while it felt uncomfortable at times, it also brought unprecedented peace. 6 months after the internship drama, small signs of genuine change began to appear. My father's communications became less demanding, his apologies less qualified. He sent a birthday card that acknowledged specific memories from my childhood, proof he had actually been present for at least some moments. He respected my requests for space without sulking or retaliation. Were these changes permanent? I remained cautiously optimistic, but protected my expectations. People rarely transform completely, especially after decades of entrenched behavior patterns. But I could acknowledge effort while maintaining the boundaries necessary for my well-being. During this period, Brianna thrived. Though she hadn't received our company's internship, she secured a position at a smaller agency where my recommendation carried weight without ethical concerns. She excelled there, confirming what I'd suspected. She had genuine talent beyond family connections. "I'm actually glad I didn't get your company's internship," she confessed. "This way I know I earned this on merit with just a little guidance from you." As for me, the freedom from seeking my father's approval unleashed creativity and confidence in my professional life. My team's campaigns won industry recognition, and I began speaking at marketing conferences, sharing knowledge rather than hoarding it for validation. Most importantly, I learned that family isn't defined by DNA or obligation, but by consistent care and mutual respect. The family I created, close friends, mentors, even my growing relationship with Brianna, provided the unconditional support I'd spent years seeking from my father. 1 year after that fateful phone call about the internship, I received a text from my father that suggested genuine reflection. "I've been thinking about what you said last year. You were right that I can't name times I put you first after the divorce. I'm sorry for failing you as a father. No qualifiers, no excuses. I understand if this comes too late, but I needed to say it." I read the message several times, allowing myself to feel the complexity of emotions it triggered. Validation, grief for what might have been, cautious hope for what might still be possible. I didn't rush to respond, giving myself permission to process on my own timeline. When I finally replied days later, my response was simple. Thank you for acknowledging that. I'm open to building a healthier relationship moving forward with clear boundaries and realistic expectations on both sides. The journey of healing family wounds is rarely linear or complete. There are still difficult moments, misunderstandings, and occasional backsliding into old patterns. But I've learned that my worth isn't determined by my father's ability to recognize it, and that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for authentic relationships. As Brianna said during our most recent lunch, we can't change the past, but we can decide what kind of future we want to create. What kind of future are you creating with your family relationships? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with loved ones to protect your well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe, and share it with someone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics. Remember, healing is possible, but it begins with honoring your own worth and truth. Thank you for listening to my journey.